Hiya, it's Hannah the Artisan Duck, and I'm back today to show you how to make a really cute but relatively simple snowflake cane. I've tried to keep this as easy as possible so that anyone can have a go, because snowflakes are not easy, I don't think. So I have this really basic set of shapes, and they're like little cookie cutter shapes. I shall put some affiliate links below if you want to check these out. So I've got flowers and squares. You can see two are missing. So basically I have made this cane predominantly with the smallest square and the smallest flower. So if you've got those two shapes, or even a 6-pointed star would do the same thing, but I thought a flower was really quite a generic shape. And you need some cutting blades and not much else, a roller to roll your clay out. But if you've got those basic tools and some clay, you can have a go making this cane. So let's get started. Right, to get started on our snowflake, we're going to take the smallest flower cutter from the set that I just showed, and we're going to start by making this into a 6-pointed star for the centre of the snowflake. So I've conditioned the white clay, and the white clay is going to be my surrounding colour, and I'm going to make a blue snowflake. So this is the inside of that star shape to start with. We're going to take it and we're going to use a baby wipe and just wipe it down so it's damp. Just like that. We don't want it to stick to this white clay. We need the shape that it pushes out. So I've already conditioned this white clay well, and it's ready to be used. So once that cutter is damp, put it down and push. And I'm not going all the way through for a minute. I'm going to wiggle it and take it out. And I can always go back in and re-dampen this cutter shape if I want. And then put it back on top. And push again. And when you lift out, because of all the moisture that you've taken off the baby wipe and onto your cutter, it should cut a nice clean shape like that. Now this isn't quite deep enough for what I need. I tried it before with not much depth and it worked okay, but it just didn't make much cane. So I'm going to take some more white clay and repeat that step again, and you can see that the original depth on this is about 2/3 the depth of the cutter. If you go all the way to the top, you risk it getting stuck inside. So I'm just going to take my baby wipe again and get this dampened down like that. So we just don't want it to stick. It's nothing more annoying than getting your clay ready and then it all sticks inside. So I'm going to push that down, lift it back up, go in again, and then cut all the way through to the base. And when you take it up, that one's stuck a little bit more, but it's not too bad. You can wiggle it, there you go, there's your shape. So I'm going to move that white clay to the side, and I'm just going to take these two now and put them together so that the flower petals meet, and just take your time, because it might mean that the flower shape isn't perfectly symmetrical, like it's not the same every side. So just take your time to match this up. There you go, that's all matched up, and I'm just going to push them down so they're firmly stuck together. Right, so the next step is I'm going to take my thumb and finger and pinch all the way along, and we're going to do this to make each petal into a triangle. Can you see? That's changed the shape just by easily pushing down the length like that. So I'm going to go around and I'll do all 6 petals, and then we'll come back for the next step. Just coming to say it's pretty much done now, but you can always take a square cutter and take the blunt end, not the sharp end, and you can just push it in like that, just to get that V shape in the middle there really defined as well. Right, so there's my basic star shape, and now because this is actually part of the blue snowflake, we're going to take our blue, and I've already conditioned this well, and this is rolled through on number 3 on my pasta machine, but it's just reasonably thin if you haven't got a pasta machine. And what we're going to do is wrap this blue around this star shape. So I'm going to pop it down here, and I'm going to make sure I've got some nice straight edges to work with. So just cut myself a straight edge, and then I'm going to try and get the depth of it right as well, so I don't have too much clay to work with. So I'm just going to measure like this, being careful to avoid the crinkly edges. Just match it up like that, cut a straight line, and then we'll do the same on the other side. So I've got my blue clay here, and we're going to start just putting it round this shape. So I'm going to put it down like this, and then I'm going to use, you can either use the square shape again to push it in, or you can use a tool like show you, I've got this tool with a flat end to it which you can push in as well, however it works for you. So I'm just going to start by pushing this right down into that sort of the V part of the clay, and then using the blunt end again of the cutter, just not quite straight, just push it in to reinforce that shape. Can you see both sides like that? And then you can just wrap around again, and then just start to bend it in, and when you're happy that you've bent it sufficiently, just use that cutting shape to push. Like that. Alternatively, you could wrap the flower with the shape and then make it into a V shape, whichever works for you, but we'll refine the shape in a minute anyway. So just push in. I'm going to go off and do all 6 petals and come back and show you when they're done. Right, so that's nearly done. I'm going to take it over the top, and I'm going to press that clay into the blue that we started with. That's going to give me a guide as to where I need to cut the clay off. So I'm just going to cut that like that, and then just finish off pushing that over and meeting those 2 shapes, sides even, together like that, and again reinforcing. So now I've probably lost a little of the definition in the star shape, so I'm going to go back and pinch each of these again to redefine that star shape. Just take me a couple of minutes to sort it out, but you may as well spend the time getting this bit perfect, because the rest of the cane is built off this shape, so it's worth it. Right, so there's our basic star shape, and we've lost a little definition because the blue is slightly longer than the white, but that's fine. You can see though, essentially that star is there, and we need to start building the cane up now and filling in some of these gaps before we move on. So I've taken some white and I've sort of made it into a block, and it's the same depth as our star shape. So I'm just going to put the star to one side for a minute. I'm going to put my white clay down and take a blade and cut it straight through the middle there, like so. And then I've got 2 halves. We need 6 little triangles to fill in these gaps. So take your smallest cutter, square cutter from the set, and we're going to put it, so you can even measure it if you want to see how far it is. It's not much of the cutting shape, but we just need this corner. Can you see like that? So you can put your cutter shape onto your clay like that and just push it down as straight as you can, and then we've got a triangle piece which will fit into here. So I will cut 6 of these, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how I put it all together. Right, once you got your 6 triangles, just start to piece them together and make sure that the point of that triangle is going into the point that you've created down into that center of that triangle shape. And they might have got a bit squashed, you can just wiggle them out if you need to. So put it in like that, and you just work your way around until all 6 of them are in. If your triangle is a little bit bulky and you feel you've got a little bit too much on one side, you can just take your blade and slice it off. Right, you can see that that's now done. We're going to continue to build it up because the first piece of work we do inside the snowflake is going to be building on top of these triangle points here. So we need a bit more depth in the white so that the detail we add has a chance to stand out. So we're just going to roll it, well, wrap it in some more white clay, and this has been rolled out on a number 1, so it's my thickest setting. So just like before, we'll measure the shape and then roll it up. There you go, you can see that's wrapped in just 1 layer of clay. I'm going to wrap it once more, probably on about a number 3, just so there really is some proper depth between that top of that point and the end of the white layers. So I shall just wrap it once more. I just happen to have some clay waiting for me, and I shall come back to you when I've done that. Right, there we go, that's all wrapped up, and I'm just going to squeeze it a little bit with that. I don't want to really reduce it, but at the same time I do want to make sure it's all stuck together because we're going to cut into this in a minute to add further details. So no, just gently you can start, and you don't want to distort it either because we need the points of the star in the same place front and back for the next step. So I'm not going to mess with it too much, and obviously the ends are starting to get a little bit distorted, so try not to worry if that's happening to you. So we're going to cut across here, so this point to this point here, so you're going to need to keep it as straight as you can, like that, and then when you press down just try and keep your blade really straight. If I mess up, I'll show you how I can fix it, but I'm hoping I don't mess up. Let's have a look. See, it's gone off center there on that one. So before you pull it apart, just stick it back down and make a mental note where it was you went wrong. So it was this end here. So when I move it, it's up here. That's all stuck back down again now. So this is the corner I need to be careful of. So I'm going to start again and put it in, and I'm going to tilt my blade ever so slightly back to try and hit the center of that star again. Once you've cut it in half, you're going to take some more blue clay, and this is rolled through in a number 4, so it's reasonably thin, and I'm going to take one of the halves and I'm going to put it down on my clay, and we're going to cut around it so it's all lined up. So pop it on there like that, make sure that the edges are lined up if you've cut it already, and we're just going to cut there. And you do need the edges to match up as well, so try your best to get some straight lines. And once you've done that, you just need to put your star back together and make sure that the top here matches the top here and that you're not using the other side. So that looks reasonably good. Turn it over, check the other side, like that, and then push it together. Now we're going to go around and we're going to cut that way and that way as well, and try and keep it so that you're making almost like a center point. If you don't manage it perfectly, it doesn't matter. We can address that later, but try your best. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I can't do this and talk at the same time, clearly, so I shall come back when I've done it. There we go. Now, granted, this is starting to look a little bit of a mess, and you're just going to have to go with it at this point. So we're just going to push this sort of together. Try not to distort it too much. It's just needs to be stuck back together. We're going to go in it a bit and do more cuts. So this really does need to be relatively well stuck together. And now we're going to go on and add some detail to the top of each of the blue lines here. So if you like here, it's got a bit obscured, you can just find some way of just pushing it back. You need to get to that blue line. So I'm just going to clear a path on some of them, make sure that that is accessible, because we have a little cane to go in there in a minute. Right, so the next step is a basic jelly roll cane. We're going to make it with white in the centre, and we're going to surround it with blue. So we're just going to take some white, doesn't need to be that much, and we're going to roll it up to make a basic snake of clay. And you're going to have to do this bit by eye. You've got to sort of try and put it in proportion with the rest of your cane. Right, we need to do this bit by eye because obviously your cane's going to be slightly different to mine, but we need to make it so that when we put this on top, it doesn't look out of proportion with the rest of the snowflake. We are, however, going to wrap this in blue so that it'll add a little bit of bulk. So get it roughly to where you think it might need to be. We're going to have to cut 6 equal pieces as well, so you need to build that possibly into some of the length. And once you're sort of at a point that the clay has reached a certain length, this is, I think, too big, but we will reduce it down even further. So I'm just going to roll it to make it ever so slightly thinner, because you want to make sure you've got enough white in the centre of your jelly roll so that you can see it. So that's kind of getting there. So now we're going to take some more blue, and this is just a number 4 again, and we're going to wrap the snake of clay in the blue. So I think I need to get this sort of longer and thinner, so I'm going to go away and roll that out to make it easier. Right, that blue is now long enough for us to roll in the white. So I've just taken it off my tile for a minute, because this is now longer than my tile, and I'm going to cut straight edge just like we have on everything else. Like so. It doesn't want to give me a very neat edge because I'm cutting on this papery background, but I'm going to cut a straight edge on one end there, pop that on and see how much length I need. There we go, just cut that other end off. And now I'm just going to, I always start it this way just by pushing it down like that to get it stuck. And we can pick it up and roll just like we have every other time. We need this reasonably accurate. So get that line by rolling it in so you can see where to cut it. Mine is really helpfully sticking for me. A bit big. Any excess you can come back and just trim as you go along. It's quite a long piece, so you're never going to get it perfect. So just do your best. And obviously we are going to roll this out a bit. We just don't want any sort of bulky areas where the blue is really thick in comparison. to the white. Okay, so any gaps, just pinch it shut like that. There we go. And now we're just going to roll that on. And we're going to bring our snowflake back in, and we're going to measure how big this is. Now you can see it looks quite large in comparison. So we're just going to roll this out and get it to a better size. I'm going to trim off the end so I can see what I'm doing. There you go, you can see how neat that is there now. So just keep rolling until you get the right size. And make sure you roll evenly as well, because you want them all to be roughly the same. There we go, we've got to a size that I'm quite happy with. So I'm now going to cut 6 of these at the length that we need for the length of the cane. So just literally lie your cane down like that. You can get a sense for how long it is there, and cut. There we go, we've got all our little circle pieces, and we're now just going to make sure that they are round and not oval from where I've cut them. Just squeeze them and then lay them on top of each of the blue lines that we made, and just check front and back that that's sitting nicely, and then secure it into place like that. And you pop on all 6 of them, unsurprisingly. Right, there we go, there's all our points added, and now we need to build up in between each of the points and over the top. So this is, these round little pieces here are completely encased. So we're just going to get some more white, and we're just going to roll it out, and then we're going to cut sort of rectangular pieces, and we're going to push it into these shapes. The idea being we need to support the roundness here, because if we don't, when you go to reduce it, they'll flatten down. So I'll briefly show you what I do, and then I'll go off and do the rest of it. So I'm going to get myself some white clay, and I'm going to roll this through on my machine, or if you don't have one, just roll it out flat. And this will probably be about a number 1. There's quite a lot of thickness to work with here. We'll probably have to wrap this a few times as well, so I shall come back when I've got this sorted out. Right, so I've got my piece of clay, and we're just gonna sort of get the length of it there like that. That blue spot is annoying me, and I'm just gonna roughly measure how sort of wide that needs to be by pushing it in there, and then I'm going to take my blade, and just where I can see it, I'm going to cut. This might be easier said than done, trying to film myself doing it, but we'll see. So roughly cut, and you can see there that it's slightly too big. There we go, and I'm just going to push it in, and I'm going to use, you can use your shape or a pointed tool, anything, and I'm just going to make sure it is really, I mean, I'm not squashing it, but I want it to make sure that it's absolutely supporting this shape. So sort of pushing it down, you can take your finger and just push it around, so that bit you've cut really does meet that circular piece like that. I always think of it like tucking it into bed. You want it feeling nice and secure like that. So I'm just going to go around and do the other pieces, and then we'll continue after that. There you go, you can see that's all level. So now we need to add another layer of white around. So just like before, I've got my white and this is on a number 1, and I'm just going to cover the whole thing in another layer or 2 of the white. So I shall carry on and do that and come back and show you when it's done. There we go, there's once, and I'm going to wrap it again because we need to now put some details coming through here, and I want them to be taller than the other ones, so I shall wrap it again, just the same. There we go, so that's been wrapped twice now. We're going to add the detail in the blue that goes from these points here up and out. So I've got off to the side some more blue clay that's been rolled through in a number 4, and we're going to start cutting into this again. So we're going to try and line it up with where the triangle dips in. There and there. It's starting to get a little bit difficult to see now because of the distortion, but just do your best, and we're going to line it up and cut through and hope for the best with regards to the other side. Let's have a look. So we've gone slightly off, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that, and I'm going to just shave off a little bit to try and get it to match up a bit better. So if I put it back together, I'm clearly tilting the blade towards me as I cut, so I need to try and make sure that when I put it in, I cut and tilt it the other way. It'll feel like I'm tilting it backwards now, but there you go, you can see that's a much better cut that way. Still not perfect, it's hitting that one better than that one, so you can keep doing this. As long as you don't completely distort it, you can keep cutting into it as many times as you like, as long as you always put it back together before you move on. There you go, that one's much better. You can see that's hitting it much better now. So with exactly the same as last time, I've got my sheet of blue. I'm going to pop this down and I'm going to cut around my shape, and then we're going to put it back together. I want a nice straight edge, so I'm going to put it slightly in. So get it down there. And oops, down there, and then across top and bottom. And use your blade to scoop it up like that. Now you've got that central line. It's going to start bulging here because it's dipped in where we've cut it so many times. So if that bothers you, you can just take your blade and just cut away some of the excess, just so it'll make it easier to see what you're doing in the next few cuts. Obviously try not to go too far down like that. I'll patch that back together, I think. This is the piece I actually cut off it, so I'm hoping I can just patch it back up like that. There we go. And then we're going to put this back together and check front and back that you're matching it up as well as you can. So that's pretty good. That looks pretty good. There. So That's all looking relatively good. Now we're going to go on and we're going to cut across that one and across that one. And I know this is getting really hard to see, but you can always guess where the marks are if you need to. So I'm going to tilt it round and line that up and cut. There you go, that one's pretty good. So take 1/2 and repeat the previous step. So we're going to match it up, and you do need to make sure that the ends are meeting, so if it's cut a bit short or whatever, just pull it around and cut off there and there. Okay, we still got that sort of lump there, so I'm just going to go back in and trim, because I do need to see in a minute what I'm doing. Right, and now we're going to put that back together like that, and make sure it matches at the other end. That's pretty good. Right, so the last cut now. And we're going to go across here. And we're going to have to use the back almost as the guide, I think, because the front is getting too distorted. So I can see there. And we're going to push straight down. Have a look. That's not bad actually. So we're going to go with that. And we're going to do something slightly different on this one. So we're going to put your middle piece in, just like before. Right, now we've added that blue piece in, and we've got the other half here. We need to grab our flower cutter for a second. And we're going to cut, just taking one of the petals, we're just going to cut down here. We need to cut a piece out to make room for a center piece. So I'm trying to make it so you can see. I'm not going to cut any further than these indents here. We just want this curved shape here. So really carefully just line it up and go straight down. And it's that where those blue pieces have crossed over in the middle, that's almost, if you imagine, that's what we're cutting out. There you go, can you see? That's now left a nice little channel. You can take that away. And there's the piece that's come out. And then we need to match it up on the other side as well. So sort of put them together, figure out where it's going to be. Imagine your cutter is going to make a circle. So if you can put it, you can just about see the piece we've already cut out. And what I would suggest is you sort of match it up to it's a circle and sort of press it down to make it so you can see. I'll move that away. I've pressed it down. You can just see the mark that it's left, and then I'm going to use that as my guide as to where to cut it. Don't want to go too deep. There we go. It's struggling because it's not sticking there. So just neaten that bit up. And if you are slightly concerned that it's not a perfect round, you can always find something and just push it in. Right, that side has got blue all the way up the middle of it, so you can see there's no white, whereas this side, a little bit of the white has crept through. So we're just going to now get some very thin, and I mean very thin, slithers. I'm not sure where that white's come from in there. Never mind. We're going to get some very thin pieces of blue and just line them in there so that the entire inside is blue. So I'm just going to find some pieces of clay. I'm just going to roll them really thin. I don't want these thick at all. I just want them to be like an invisible coating, like you don't even know it's there. And then when it gets really thin, this clay is getting sticky, just piece it in to hide the white if it wants to come off my fingers. So this clay I think is getting very warm with all the handling. Do you know what, I'll just go for this piece here. There you go, take off any excess. And that's now covering the white that was inside. So when we cut into it, there'll be a completely blue surround. So the next step is to take some white clay, and we're going to make a snake of white clay to go in the middle between both of these pieces. Grab yourself some white and make it into a ball, and then you can roll it to a snake, and it just needs to fit into that gap, no bigger and no smaller. Keep checking it as you do it, see if it fits, see if it's too big, too small. That's probably not too far off, because by the time I squashed it shut, that'll be about right. I'm going to go with that. So I'm just gonna, I seem to have squashed that. I'm gonna put it in like that, and I'm gonna put it down. I'm just gonna cut some of the excess off and then put the two pieces together. Right, now match it up so it's all lined up again, and then just squeeze that into shape. Well, not squeeze it into shape, but squeeze it to put it together. And check front and back that it's all nicely matched up. Right, we're on the final stages. We're going to take our little square cutter again, and we're going to add detail to the top of each of these now. So find one you can see. We're going to use it to cut straight down and then we're going to add a piece in here. So I'm almost, because we've done the layers, if you can see which layer you're on, you can decide how far you're going to cut down and measure it accordingly, if that makes any sense. So take your corner and you're just going to cut straight down. So you can take a chunk out of this cane now with this square cutter. Like that. I can't talk and cut at the same time, but there you go. Now keep it the right way up so you know how to put it back in. So that's the right way up. I have got some clay. This is on a number 4 again, and we're basically going to put this in there. So I'm going to sort of guess how long it needs to be. I'm going to make it into a point like that so it fits in, and then I'm going to look and sort of see how long I need it to be, and I'm going to cut it roughly so it's level with the outer edges of this white. So I've got my blue piece and I'm going to insert it into there like so. You can always trim it off if you think it's a bit big. That looks all right. I'm going to cut off the excess at the end here and just push it back in again. And you can use your triangle cutter and just push it in. You want to try and get that point as neat as you can. You can see there that I've gone slightly off center there, but it doesn't matter. You can see it's right on the center there. So that's something to watch when you're cutting. I didn't say you need to try and keep that as in line as possible. So once you've done that, you pop that piece back in, and then you go around and do it on all of them. So I shall do that on all of them and come back and show you. There we go, I've added all those pieces in, and now we're just left to reduce it and, you know, start squeezing it from the middle to get out any air, and then once you've done that sufficiently and everything is stuck together, you can start rolling it. I might put another sheet of white around it just to help me reduce it more, just because when I cut it I like to have a little surround all around my shape. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to go and I'll reduce it and I'll come back and show you when it's done. Right, I have reduced that down quite a lot. I'll probably reduce it further to use it, but I thought we'd cut in and to see what it looks like. So, are you ready for the moment of truth? Let's see if it's worked. Ta-da! There is our snowflake. It's looking pretty cute. So I'm going to go away and I'll make some pieces and I'll come back and show you what it looks like at the end. And yeah, I shall see you soon. Right, I'm back to show you a few pieces that I've made with this cane. I've just made a sheet of clay here and made some Christmas decorations with it. So I've got snowflakes in different sizes and I've added some little jewels to the centre, just because, you know, it's Christmas, we've got to have all the sparkle. And I've made some little angels, and then I've made some jewellery pieces. So I've used the cane in two different ways for the jewellery. So one way is I've just used one single snowflake to make some really cute studs, and I have tutorials on how to use your cane slicers, although I don't show this technique where you just use the one. I can do a tutorial on that if anyone wants to see. And I've also got a tutorial on how to embed your earring backs as well, so I'll link both of those below in the description. I've also done some sort of drop earrings, and I've not reduced the cane as far for these because this is a bigger snowflake, and made some cute little Christmassy stud earrings. And then I've used the cane, sorry, in the normal way that I would usually use it, and made some patterned earrings as well. Just like that. So there's quite a few ways you could use this with it being Christmassy decorations. You probably could come up with other ideas as well that I haven't shown today. I also wanted to show these earrings that I've made here. This is the cane that I made for my blog post, which I will link below too. And I used a translucent clay to go around the cane, so it gives, I'll just compare the two, a very different look to the cane and how your finished piece will look. So this is translucent and I put it on white with some silver leaf underneath just to see how much of that silver popped through that snowflake. But yeah, that's how different that looks. I'm really worried I've made this snowflake cane look a lot harder than it actually is, and that wasn't my aim. My aim was to make a snowflake cane that was actually quite easy to make. So if you fancy making it, please bear that in mind. It's just that I get flustered sometimes when I'm trying to film myself making something. I will put the links below for my blog post that goes with it, so if I've not explained something clearly here and it's not obvious, then maybe the blog post will help with that. But until next time, I really hope you've enjoyed this, because I've actually had a lot of fun working out the cane and making these pieces. So until next time, thanks for watching. Bye!